Today we are going to learn about the salutation. So here, after the inside address, besides the left margin, leaving one line, the words of respect showing readiness for communication written for the receiver of a letter is called the salutation. As per general tradition, we say hello, or we can write how are you, how do you do. But when here in this letter comes up, this salutation can be like dear sir, dear madam, or dear Mr. Suri, my dear Mr. Thakkar, so on. If some name is not mentioned but designation is mentioned, then the salutation be sir or madam. When the letter is addressed to some group, the salutation will be gentleman. As per the British method, the punctuation mark, comma, is placed after salutation, whereas as per American method, the punctuation mark, colon, is placed. The other important thing about salutation is the nearness in relationship between the letter writer and its receiver. So if it is an official correspondence with government institution, the most formal salutation is sir or madam. The salutation starts like dear sir or dear madam. Whereas if it is an intimate relationship with the receiver, the salutation is like my dear Khan. It is the salutation that decides the complementary clause because both are interconnected. The body of the letter. The body of the letter, which is the theme, written immediately after the salutation. This main part of the letter and is divided into three parts. First, introductory part. This provides reference to the earlier correspondence or interaction. At times it provides an introduction to the letter writer. This purpose is of connection between the writer and the receiver. A properly begun letter thus works efficiently as a messenger. Second is main paragraph. This is the second paragraph of the letter. The theme of the letter is discussed methodically and in detail. By selecting proper sentence pattern and clear selection of words, you are making an attempt to justify the purpose for which the letter is drafted. Here, an attempt is made to justify the purpose. So, if it is a sole purpose, then a detailed information can be given there, and this can be presented in more than one paragraph also, or with bullets or even in tabular form, which can be arranged properly. An attempt is made here to impart information in a precise manner so that the reader gets it equally well and his interest is maintained. Then we have concluding paragraph. The letter writer here clearly mentions what he expects from the reader and moves in the direction of ending the letter. He makes an attempt to convert the prospective customer into an actual customer by giving some assurance. It should be noted that certain regular expression mentioned after the third paragraph and before the complementary clause should be written as follows. For example, thanking you is incorrect expression. Instead of that, you have to write thank you. Awaiting an early reply from you is an incorrect expression. We have to write we await an early reply from you. Both the earlier expressions are incorrect because they are not complete sentence. After writing a correct and complete sentence, it should end with a full stop. Our next topic is the complementary clause. To conclude the letter, it is important to use appropriate complementary clause. The respect of the reader and relation with the writer of the letter should be kept in mind while writing complementary clause. So, this depends upon the relationship of reader and writer of the letter. The closeness of between the reader and writer at the letter can be known very well with the help of salutation and complementary clause. Just as the letter begins with greetings in the form of salutation, it should end with an appropriate expression complimenting the reader. This expression is called the complementary clause. Complementary clause is written on right hand side of the page at the end of the letter. Comma is put after writing complementary clause, but if not punctuations are used in the letter, then no comma should be attached even after complementary clause. One should be very particular about capitalization and punctuation marks while writing complementary clause. You can see the table how it is mentioned. For example, yours sincerely. Here Y of yours will be capital, and no apostrophe marks is used before or after S of yours, and S of sincerely is always small and never capital. A comma is placed at the end. Let us learn about the signature. After complimentary close, the letter writer writes his signature or writes his/her full name. In case he/she puts initial, that is the first alphabet of first, middle and last name, or the signature is eligible, then in the next line below he/she is expected to write name in brackets. The matter expressed in the letter and the sincerity of the writer is by the signature's authenticity shows. This shows that the writer endorses content of the letter wholeheartedly. The signature is generally handwritten. If the letter is computer generated, then the digital signature is used. You can see the examples. Next topic is per pro signature. When a person who holds the highest post in a firm or institute and is going to remain away from his or her duties, then the person, keeping in mind of the promptness of the routine official work of the company, officially allows another person to sign on his behalf, of course after completing a legal formality. At times, heads of different department official provides rights to sign on their behalf for certain routine correspondence. In such case, power of attorney is given for the signature for per procuration. This proxy signature arrangement necessarily requires prior completion of legal procedure. Per pro signature is written in the following way. For example, yours faithfully, PP. So that shows it is, or this person is per pro on behalf of the real person. Our next topic is personal and other notation. When we are writing a letter and we know that this letter is very important and the reader must read and give us a reply, so on the top part of the letter or the upper area, the blank part of the letter, instructions like urgent, personal, confidential, priority are written in either bold letter or with different colored ink. At times these expressions are underlined to draw attention of the reader. Because of it, any other person in an institute firm would not open or read the letter or do the needful. It is advisable to mention notation of these types on the envelope. Next is attention line. The letter writer would mention the address of the receiver as part of the inside address as well as on the envelope. But when he expects that a particular person of the institute or firm should receive the letter, he only should pay attention and do the needful. Then the name of that person is mentioned as part of attention line. You can see in the example. You can see here how it's been mentioned for the attention of Sri Amrendra Pargi, or you can write attention and then put a colon and then write Sri Amrendra Pargi. So it is understood that this is specially for this person. Next is the subject line. Subject line indicates the purpose of writing a letter. Before the receiver of the letter starts reading the content of the letter, he would come to know about the main theme of the letter. So we write subject colon like wholesale purchase of pulses and grocery. Generally, subject line is indicated by underlining it or by writing in a bold letter. Next is enclosure. At time, along with the main letter, we have to attach certain papers containing information. So that is to be enclosed in the envelope. This is called enclosure. For example, with an application for certain post, copy of mark sheets and certificates are needed to be enclosed. So we mention this enclosure after signature besides the left margin. When there is more than one enclosure, then either their number is mentioned or they are described one after another. You can see in the example. Next is CC or carbon copy. Carbon copy notation. At time, a particular letter is meant for more than one institute department. They all come to know about the content of the letter and each one do the needful in his/her own way. In such letter, after signature, besides the left margin and among the optional parts, they all are mentioned as carbon copy notation towards the end. While instruction CC2, they all are mentioned in a serial order as. You can see the example. Next is Identification line. In big institution or government department, it is very likely that two or more than two persons are involved in the process of drafting a letter. It is also possible that the executive may give dictation of the content of the letter and any other employee may take it down in shorthand and type it. In such a situation, in order to create the identity of the persons involved, then their names are mentioned as part of identification line on or in the one of the occasional option part of the business letter mentioned after signature, that also besides the left margin. Here the initial of the person dictating the letter and the one typing it are mentioned separate by colon or slash. You can see example. Here it is understood that the executive with the initial HD Pathan has given the dictation of the letter and the one having initial JR Tadvi has typed it. Next is mailing instruction. As per the content of the letter, the executive of the firm decides and instructs which way it has to be dispatched, whether by ordinary post, registered AD post, speed post or by courier. So we have to give and we have to mention it. For example, by regard AD post or by courier. Next is postscript. After mentioning all necessary details as per the body of the letter, if the letter writer wants to draw the attention of the reader towards some significant matter, then in the case among the optional parts mentioned after the signature, it is mentioned as P.S. It should be noted that if the writer forgets to mention some significant matter and then mention as part of postscript, then it suggests carelessness on his part. So it is better to redraft the letter. It is necessary formality to put signature. If we have written PS, then it is necessary formality to put signature after mentioning detail as part of PS.